you need to pass GED math, know this. Sometimes test takers will take the math test and they'll fail by just a couple of points, and it's really, really frustrating. And I think sometimes part of the reason for this is because they made just a handful of basic math mistakes. And if you can avoid making those basic math mistakes, I think it's going to really help your score, and in some cases that could make the difference between passing or failing. Now, I've been on YouTube since 2017, and I've read many, many comments over the years, and so in this video, I've taken concepts that I've had people ask questions about many times over my years of doing this on YouTube, and I've tried to really drill down and emphasize those concepts here in this video, and hopefully this video will get you one step closer to passing GED math so that you can move ahead to bigger and better things in life, like college or a better job, whatever your goal happens to be, and we're going to get started right now. If 4x minus 16 equals 20, then x equals what? Is the answer A, 15, B, 9, C, 11, or D, 24? So now's your chance if you'd like to pause the video, try to figure this out, take all the time you need, and if you get stuck, don't worry about it because we're just going to go over the answer. Okay, let's talk about this question. So there are two ways to solve this question. So the first way to solve this question is to just do the math here and try to get x by itself on one side of our equation. So to do that, I would see that we have 4x minus 16 equals 20. And to get the 16 off of this side of our equation, I'm going to add 16. And when I do that, the 16s cancel out. But whatever I do to one side, I also have to do it to the other side as well. So I also have to do 20 plus 16. So what I'll end up with is 4x equals 36. So I have 4 times x here, and to get rid of this 4 so I can get x by itself, I'm going to do the opposite of times, which is division. So if I divide by 4, the 4's will cancel out, which leaves me with the x, which is what I want. But whatever I do to one side, I also have to do it to the other. So 36 divided by 4 is 9. So if I do it this way, I figure out that the answer is x equals 9. Now let me show you the other way to do a question like this too. So that's the first way to do it, is just to work it out. The second way to do it is you can do it by what's called back solving, or some people just call this the plug-in method or the plug-in trick. So it involves basically starting with this 4x minus 16. And what you can do is you can substitute each answer choice into the equation for x until you find a case where we get 20 as the result. Let's start with 15. So instead of writing an x here, I'm going to write 4 times 15. So I do 4 times 15 minus 16. And so I want to plug this into my calculator and see if it equals 20 or not. So 4 times 15 is 60 minus 16 gives us 44. So we know that A is the incorrect answer because the result is 44. So now let's try answer choice B here. So this time I'm going to do 4 times 9 minus 16. So see how I'm just taking each answer choice and plugging it in place of the x, and I'm just doing the math and seeing if the answer equals 20. So 4 times 9 minus 16 is 20. So that's the other way to do this question, and either way we get the right answer, and B is the correct answer. Please answer without using a calculator. 10 minus negative 6 equals which of the following? Is it A, B, C, or D? So let me give you a chance now if you'd like to pause the video, try to figure this out, take all the time you need, and whenever you're ready, we'll go over the answer. Okay, let's talk about this. So here we have a scenario where we have minus a negative, right? We have 10 minus negative 6. Now, minus a negative is really the same as plus. So if we have 10 minus negative 6, that's the same as 10 plus 6. Let me repeat that. 10 minus negative 6 is the same as 10 plus 6. Minus a negative is the same as plus. Minus a negative is the same as plus. Minus a negative is the same as plus. You're probably getting tired of hearing me say that, but I just really want to make the point that minus and negative is the same as plus. And the reason I'm taking up time on this is because this is something that's confusing for a lot of people, and I know that because, I've seen people ask questions about this down in the comments in some of my other videos, so I really wanted to take a second here and just drive the point home that minus and negative is the same as plus. So hopefully, if nothing else, you take away from this question that minus and negative is the same as plus. 4b plus 3b plus 17 equals which of the following? Is the answer A, B, C, or D? So let me give you a chance now if you'd like to pause the video, try to figure this out, and whenever you're ready, we'll go over the answer. Okay, so the idea here is that we have to combine the like terms. So in other words, we can only add up the numbers that have b's. So let's consider a different example here. What if I had a b paired with each number here? So what if I had 4b plus 3b plus 17b? Well, if this was the case, all we would do is just add up the numbers. 4 plus 3 plus 17, which is 24, and we would bring the b along for the ride. So if each term had a b in it, A would be the correct answer. However, unfortunately, 17 doesn't have a b, so A is actually incorrect. Now, what if we just had 4 plus 3 plus 17, and none of the numbers had b's with them? Well, if this was the case, all we would do is add them up, 4 plus 3 plus 17, which is 24, and C would be the correct answer. But unfortunately, this isn't the case here because 4 has a B and 3 has a B. So how do we proceed here? Well, the correct way to do a question like this is to do 4 plus 3, which is 7, and bring the B along for the ride, and then you're just going to have to leave the plus 17 hanging here. So the answer would be 7B plus 17. How many miles can Helga travel if she drives at an average speed of 60 miles per hour for 5 hours? Is the answer A, B, C, or D? Now, since we're just practicing, I've given you the distance formula up here if you want to use it. And this formula, you can just find it on the sheet that they'll give you when you go to take your test. There'll be a formula sheet you can access. And you can get this formula right off of the sheet, but since we're just practicing, I just threw it up here to save you some time. And D stands for distance, the R stands for rate, and T stands for time. So it's distance equals rate times time. So let me give you a chance now if you'd like to pause the video, try to figure this out, and whenever you're ready, we'll go over the answer. So here we need to find miles, right? So that's a distance. So what we can do here, since we have 60 miles per hour, and we know that this is a rate, 60 miles per hour is a rate. So we're going to plug 60 into the formula for R. And we're also told that she's going to drive for 5 hours. So 5 hours, that's a time, so we can put 5 into the formula for T. So essentially all we're going to do here is we're going to do 60 times 5. 60 times 5. And you can just plug that into your calculator if you'd like to, and that gives us 300. So if you could just see this, if you could just look at this question and just tell that you had to do 60 times 5 without using the formula, that's perfectly fine. But you're welcome to use this distance formula as much as you want on the test. Like I said, this will be on your formula sheet. And just as a general tip, I recommend using the calculator as much as possible. I think that as long as you put the numbers in the calculator the right way, it's going to get you the answer a lot faster and probably save you time compared to doing them by hand when you don't have to, but totally up to you to decide how you want to do it on the test. I have my own TI-30XS calculator that I use sometimes in videos, and my 2-year-old daughter picks it up sometimes, and she likes to pretend it's a phone, so maybe it looks like a phone to her. But anyway, the answer here is B, 300 miles. So this video's champion shoutout goes to a test taker who says, I just want to come here to say I took my 3rd attempt at my math test today and I passed. It was the last test I had left, and now I finally have my GED. So I want to wish this person a big congratulations, and anyone out there watching this video, know that my wish for everyone is that you will be able to pass on your first try, but sometimes it just takes a couple tries, and so I want to congratulate this person on passing, but also on persevering, and finally getting it done on the 3rd attempt. Sometimes it just takes a couple tries. What is the sum of 7x plus 9y plus 2x minus 3y? Is the answer A, B, C, or D? So let me give you a chance now to pause the video and give this one a shot. And if you get stuck, don't worry, because we'll just go over the answer when you're done. So the way to get a question like this right is to first identify which terms have the same variables. So we see 7x and 2x, and we see 9y and 3y. So what we can't do is try to combine something that has an x with something that has a y, or vice versa. So the first thing that I'm going to do is let me work with the 7x and the 2x here. So all we do is we just add 7 and 2 and bring the x's along for the ride. So 7 plus 2 is 9, and we bring the x along for the ride, so we have 9x. Now let's work with 9y and 3y. So here what we do is 9 minus 3. So 9 minus 3 is 6. So we bring the y along for the ride. So we'd have 6y. And the reason I did 9 minus 3 is because there's a minus sign right here in front of the 3y. So the answer is B, 9x plus 6y. Round 4,788 to the nearest 100. Please write your answer in the box below. So now obviously you can't really write your answer through the screen, so maybe if you have a sheet of paper nearby, write it down on a sheet of paper, or do it in your head, type it on your phone, however you want to do it. But let me give you a chance now to pause the video and try this out, and whenever you're ready, just unpause the video, and whether you get it right or wrong, we'll talk about it. So rounding is a skill that it's really easy to forget how to do if you haven't done it in a while. So basically, what we want to do here is we want to first find the number that's in the hundreds place. The first 8 here is the ones place. Oops. This first 8 here is in the ones place. This 8 is in the tens place. The 7 is in the hundreds place. And this 4 is in the thousands place. So since we're rounding to the nearest 100, I would start by just coming out here and picking out the number that's in the hundreds place, which is 7. Now we want to go to the number to the right of it, which is 8. And we want to consider, is this number less than 5 or is it a 5 or greater? Well, since this is an 8, it's greater than 5. That means that we're going to round up. So what exactly does that mean? Well, now I want to come back to my 7 and I want to increase it by 1. And then I'm going to turn these two 8s into 0. So in other words, the answer is going to be 4,800. So let me give you a really super quick crash course on place values and rounding. So the number on the screen here is just a random number that I made up just to show you the different place values going from the ones, tens, hundreds, all the way up to the millions. So for the GED test, I recommend being able to just look at a number like this and be able to pick out which number's in the ones, which number's in the tens, and so on and so forth. All right, that's going to help you with rounding. So to give you some step-by-step instructions for rounding, the first step is to identify the place value you're being asked about. Like in that example, the first thing we did was pick out the number in the hundreds place. Then the second step is to look at the value to the right of that number. If it's a 5 or higher, that means that you're going to round up. And if it's less than 5, you're going to keep the number from the first step the same. And then that last step is going to be change all the digits to the right of that number from step 1 to zeros. If you'd like to, you can pause this and add this to your notes. If not, that's totally cool. It's up to you. I just typed this out here to just kind of sum up the 3 steps for rounding that I covered. And let me show you one quick example here. So round 54 to the nearest 10. So if you'd like to, you can pause the video and try this out, and then just unpause it and we'll go over the answer. So here, again, the first step is to find the number that is in the tens place, because that's what it's asking us to round to the nearest 10. So the 4 is in the ones place, and the 5 is in the tens. So then the second step would be to go back to the number to the right of it. So the number that's to the right of the 5 is 4, and we want to consider, is this less than 5? And 4 is less than 5. So in that case, we're going to keep this 5 the same, and we're just going to take this 4 and replace it with a 0. So the answer here is 50. The triangle below has 3 internal angles. How many degrees does the missing angle measure? Please write your answer in the box below. And just in case the numbers are small on your screen, let me read these. We've got 40 right here, 60 right here, and this angle is unknown. And we want to find how many degrees does this missing angle measure? And obviously, again, you can't really write your answer in the box, so maybe write it down on a sheet of paper, do it in your head, type it out, whatever works for you. And let me give you a chance now to pause the video, try to figure this out, and whenever you're ready, we'll go over the answer. So the key to getting this question right is to note that the 3 angles in a triangle must always add up to be 180 degrees. So based off of this fact, we can write an equation. So we know that one angle in the triangle below is 40 degrees, and we know that the other angle is 60, but there's one angle right here, and we don't know what it is, and that's what we're trying to find. So let me just call it X, because we don't know what it is. So I'm just going to write a letter here to represent this missing angle. And we know that all 3 of these angles have to add up to 180. So we're going to set this equal to 180. So our equation is 40 plus 60 plus x equals 180. Now, the idea here is that if we solve this equation for x, in other words, if we can get x by itself on one side of the equation, that's going to give us the answer here. So what is 40 plus 60? Well, 40 plus 60 is 100. So I can have 100 plus x equals 180. And again, the name of the game here is to get the x by itself. So now what I can do is I can subtract 100 from both sides of the equation. And subtracting by 100 on the left-hand side cancels out the 100, and subtracting on the right-hand side is going to give me x equals 80. So the correct answer here is 80. And again, that key point is that the three angles in a triangle must always add up to be 180 degrees. For which value or values of x is the function f of x undefined if f of x equals 12 minus x over 14 plus x? Is the answer A, B, C, or D? So now's your chance if you'd like to pause the video, take all the time you need, and whenever you're ready, we'll go over the answer. So a question like this might look really complicated, and it might sound really complicated, but the way to get the right answer is actually very simple. So all we have to do is take the 14 plus x, and we're going to set it equal to 0. All right, so again, we just take whatever's in the denominator. In this case, the denominator is 14 plus x, and set that equal to 0. And if you're not sure what the denominator is just a fancy word for whatever's in the bottom of a fraction. And on the other hand, whatever we see in the top of the fraction, that is what we call the numerator. So all we have to do here is take the denominator and set it equal to 0. So I have 14 plus x equals 0. Now all I have to do is just try to get this x by itself on one side of the equation. In other words, I'm going to solve this for x, and we're done. So since I've got positive 14, I want to subtract 14. The 14s will cancel out. Whatever I do to one side, I also have to do it to the other side as well. So when all is said and done, we see that x equals negative 14, and the correct answer here is A. So again, to get a question like this right, all we have to do is take the denominator or the bottom part of the fraction, set it equal to 0, solve it for x, and you're going to get the right answer by doing that. If you're wondering, well, why is this the case? Let me explain it briefly. So I'm just going to explain this super quickly. Basically, watch what happens if we substitute negative 14 in here for x. So we would have in the bottom of the fraction 14 minus 14. Now 14 minus 14 is 0. And one rule in math is that we can never ever divide by 0. And if x equals negative 14, it's going to result in a 0 in the denominator, which we can't have. So that's a really quick explanation for why this makes sense. What is your favorite holiday? Well, I don't know if most people consider birthdays to be a holiday, but I'm going to go with that because tomorrow's my birthday. I'm turning 31, and tonight we have like a 4-hour drive to make, but we're getting together with family tomorrow. We're going to have a cookout at a lake, and it should be fun. Do you like to cook? What is your best dish? I don't really like cooking that much. Omelets are my best dish. What is your favorite type of music? Well, I listen to all different types of music, everything from classic rock to rap to alternative to country to some bluegrass stuff. I mean, I listen to all kinds of stuff. Which answer choice represents the inequality graphed on the number line below? Is the answer A, B, C, or D? So now's your chance if you'd like to, before I let you pause the video, let me point out that consider that this dot right here, this circle here, this is right on -1. So just consider that this dot starts right on the -1. Okay, so let me give you a chance now to pause the video, try this out, and whenever you're ready, we'll go over the answer. Okay, so what we see here is that the arrow begins at -1 on the number line and continues on past 5. Now, the fact that this dot here is a closed circle, that's going to tell us that -1 is included in the range of values. So since we don't have anything less than -1 that's included here, we would rule out both A and B. So what about C? Well, again, like I said, the arrow goes on and on and on past -1, and this dot tells us that -1 is included in the range of values. So what about x is greater than or equal to -1? Well, that fits here. So C is the correct answer. The diameter of a circle is 50 units. What is the length of the radius? Is the answer A, B, C, or D? So now's your chance if you'd like to pause the video, try to figure this out, and whenever you're ready, we'll go over the answer. Okay, so there's two key points here to know about the diameter and radius. So the first point is that the diameter is equal to twice the radius, and the second point is that the radius is equal to half the diameter. So we can also write these out as equations. So the diameter is equal to twice the radius. We can say that d equals 2r. And we can also, since we know that the radius is equal to half the diameter, we can say that r equals half of d, all right, or half times d. Now, we can also draw out a circle here to help us further make the point, and I'm going to go with blue because I'm sure you're pretty blue from studying for the GED. I'm sure you'd much rather be doing something else right now, but I really appreciate you sticking with me this far into the video. Now, if I measure to the circle's center, we would call this distance the radius. And if I measure the whole way across the circle, we would call this whole thing the diameter. So whether you remember these two little sentences right here, the diameter is equal to twice the radius, and the radius is equal to half the diameter, whether you remember these formulas here, d equals 2r and r equals half d, or whether you just, kind of remember this circle here and that going halfway across the circle, it gives you the radius, and going the full way across is the diameter. However you want to memorize it, the point here is that to get the question right, we have to cut the diameter in half. So if the diameter of the circle is equal to 50, we want to divide that by 2, and 50 divided by 2 is 25, so A is the correct answer. Andrew found his first girlfriend and is in love for the first time. He came up with a playlist of songs that he believed matched the feelings he is experiencing. Over the last 3 months, he recorded the number of times he played each song. What is the mean number of times he played each song over the last 3 months? So let me give you a chance now to pause the video, try to figure this out, and whenever you're ready, we'll go over the answer. Okay, so if you ever get a question that says, what is the mean? That's really the same thing as asking, what is the average? So we want to find the mean or the average. Those are two different ways of saying the same thing. So to find the mean or the average, what you do is you want to take all of these numbers and you want to add them up, and then you want to divide by the total number of numbers. And if you're not sure what I mean, let me show you here. So let me start. Hopefully you can see here. What I'm doing is I'm just taking each number, the 21, 28, 45, and then would be 30, and I'm just adding these all up. So to save time, let me write them all out here, and again, we're just going to add up all of these numbers. So if you plug this all into your calculator and add this all up, what you're going to get is 300. And so now that I have added up all the numbers, what I want to do is count the total number of numbers we've got here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So again, I add up all of these numbers, and when I do that, I get 300. So what I'm going to do now is divide by 10. And I'm dividing by 10 because there are 10 numbers here in our number set. So 300 divided by 10 equals 30. So 30 is the correct answer here. And the song Love Story by Taylor Swift, a girl that I dated back in high school, that might have been our song. I actually can't remember. I always get it confused with the song, what's it called? You Belong With Me. We went to a homecoming dance, I think it was, and it was either Love Story or You Belong With Me that we danced to, and she was like, oh, this can be our song, and I just kind of went along with it. I swear it wasn't my idea. We didn't last that long. This was like 15 years ago. Anyway, sorry for taking up your time with this. Let's move on to the next question. Andrew's girlfriend just broke up with him, and he is devastated. Andrew made a playlist of songs to help him through the heartbreak. The table below shows the number of times Andrew played each song on the playlist over the last 3 months. What is the median number of times Andrew played each song over the last 3 months? So now's your chance if you'd like to pause the video, try to figure this out, take all the time you need, and whenever you're ready, we'll go over the answer. So the first step to any median question is to take all of the numbers and put them in order from smallest to largest. So what I did here on the screen is I took all of these numbers here and I put them in order from smallest to largest, and it should look like this: 14, 14, 15, 17, 18, 18, 20, 20, and 50. So if we do this, then since here we're working with 9 different numbers, we have an odd number of numbers that we're working with, it's really easy because then we can just pick out the middle number. So again, the first step is to put the numbers in order from smallest to largest. Then if you've got an odd number of numbers like we do here, because we have 9 numbers, all you have to do is just pick out the number in the middle, and that's the answer. So the correct answer here is 18. What is the area of a circle that has a diameter of 20 inches? is the answer A, B, C, or D? And just to save you some time, I gave you the formula for the area of a circle. It's area equals pi r squared, and I put it right here for you just to save you time for practicing. But just know that on your test, you'll want to go to the formula sheet that they'll give you and look up the formula for the area of a circle. So let me give you a chance now if you'd like to pause the video, try to figure this out, and then whenever you're ready, we'll go over the answer. So the first thing to be aware of here is that they're giving us the diameter, but in the formula, we see an r for radius. So we're going to have to take the diameter and we're going to have to cut it in half to get the radius, right? Because the radius is equal to half of the diameter. In other words, if we take the diameter, which is 20, and we divide by 2, that tells us the radius. So the radius here is 10. Again, all you do to find the radius is you take the diameter and you cut it in half. Half of 20 is 10, so the radius is equal to 10. So now we're going to come back up here into our formula, and we're going to replace this r with 10. So we'll see that the area equals pi times 10 squared. Now, what is 10 squared? Well, 10 squared is the same as 10 times 10, which equals 100. So the answer here is going to be 100 pi. Now, this little pi symbol here, in this case, is actually pretty easy because we see that each of the answer choices has pi in it. So we don't have to do anything else. We just have to do 10 squared, and we can just leave the answer as 100 pi. So this makes it pretty easy. Now, on the test, if they leave pi in the answer choices like this, which they could do, your work's pretty much done as long as you just plug the numbers in the right way. Now, if you don't see pi in the answer choices, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use the number 3.14 in place of pi. And if you look at the GED formula sheet, they tell you to use 3.14 for pi. So pi is just a number that's approximately equal to 3.14. Now, pi is not exactly 3.14. It's actually a long number that goes on and on and on and on. But all you have to really know for the GED test is that pi is approximately 3.14. So if we wanted to, instead of leaving this as 100 pi, what we could do is we could actually do 100 times 3.14, and we could just plug this in our calculator, and then that would give us the answer. So again, if they leave pi in the answer choices, you don't have to really do a calculation with pi. You just have to do the 10 squared part, and you just leave the answer as 100 pi. If you don't see pi in the answer choices, then probably what that means is that you have to multiply it by 3.14. So if we didn't have pi in the answer choices, we would be doing 100 times 3.14 to get the answer. All right, hopefully that's clear. I know that I've seen over the years, a lot of students have asked in the comments about pi, and they get confused about, do they have to use pi in the calculation, or can they just leave it like pi? The answer is, I've seen it both ways on practice tests. So hope that they just leave pi in the answer choices, because I think that makes it a little bit easier. But if not, you just have to multiply by 3.14. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Feel free to ask down below if it's not. Henry feels overwhelmed by the number of streaming services he is subscribed to, so he decides to cancel all of them and go back to DVDs. At a local pawn shop, DVDs are priced at $2 per DVD. If Henry spent $34 in total on DVDs at the pawn shop, how many DVDs did he buy? Please disregard any sales tax. And just for the sake of time, I've included the formula up here at the top for total cost, and you can find this formula on your formula sheet that they'll give you when you go to take the test. And it's up to you if you want to use this formula or not, but let me give you a chance now to pause the video, try to figure this out, and whenever you're ready, we'll go over the answer. So here, since we're told that he spent $34 in total, what we can do is we can plug that in for the total cost into the formula. And we also know that the DVDs are priced at $2 per DVD. So what that's telling us is the price per unit. So it's $2 per DVD. So I can plug 2 in here for the price per unit. So I'll have, again, 34 is the total cost, or the total amount that he spent. And we don't know what the number of units is, so I'm just going to call that A. And really, I could pick X, I could pick Y. I'm just going to put an A here. It doesn't really matter, whatever letter you want to use. And then we know again that the price per unit is 2 because it's $2 per DVD. So we now have 34 equals A2 or 2A. And basically, we want to divide by 2 on both sides here. And when we divide by 2 on both sides, what we're going to find is that we get the a by itself on the right-hand side of our equation, because the 2's will cancel out. So what is 34 divided by 2? Well, 34 divided by 2 is 17, and we see that the answer here is 17. Now, if you were able to just look at this question and think about how to do it and figure it out without using the formula, that's perfectly fine too. But if you want to use this formula, just another reminder that this will be on your formula sheet if you would like to use it. And I did actually go to a local pawn shop recently to hunt down a DVD, and it was the first Lord of the Rings movie. I paid $1 for it. A line passes through points at coordinates -7, 5, and -6, 2. What is the slope of the line? And I've given you the formula for slope just to save you time right here, but on the test you'll want to go to the formula sheet and you'll want to get this formula and use it to get the question right. And so let me give you a chance now if you'd like to pause the video, try to figure this out, and whenever you're ready we'll go over the answer. Okay, let's talk about this here. So the way I like to do slope questions like this is to start off by labeling all the numbers here. So whenever we see a coordinate pair like -7 and 5, the first number in the pair is always going to be an x. So I'm going to call -7 x1. And the second number in the pair is always going to be a y. So I'm going to call this 5 y1. So let me come over here to -6 and 2. So again, the first number in a pair is always going to be an x. So this -6, I'm going to call this x2. And the second number in a pair is always a y. So this 2, I'm going to call this y2. Now, the reason why I like to label all of these numbers is because I think it makes it easier to plug the numbers into the formula. So we come up here to this formula, and where I see y2 here, I'm going to replace that with 2. All right, so again, I'm just going to take my 2, which is my y2, and I'm going to plug that into the formula for y2. So it's y2 minus y1. So what is my y1? Well, I look right here, and I see that I labeled 5 as y1, so 5 goes into the formula for y1. Okay, so I have my y2 minus y1 is 2 minus 5. Now I have to do x2 minus x1. So my x2 is -6, and my x1 is -7. Okay, so here's the thing. Since it would be -6 minus -7, minus a negative is the same thing as plus. So instead of writing minus -7, I'm just going to change it into plus. So I'm going to write -6 plus 7. Again, I'm doing that because minus a negative is the same as plus. So if I have -6 minus -7, I can just turn it into -6 plus 7. Okay, so let's do the math here. So what is 2 minus 5? 2 minus 5 is -3. And down here, I have -6 plus 7, and that is +1. So -3 divided by +1 is just -3. So the correct answer here is -3.